Hello everyone, and welcome to our Nautobot community meeting for July 2022. We're approaching launch day for Nautobot 1.4, and we have a few more features we'd like to share with you. We will be releasing a beta this week with all these features and more. The features we'll be showcasing today are job hooks, think jobs triggered just like webhooks. Dynamic groups can now combine and group other dynamic groups. Accessing and updating relationship association information via the API directly on the models themselves. Being able to filter models by their relationship associations, and a very cool community contribution of being able to rerun previous job runs from their job results. And like our previous meeting video, at the end, we'll touch on a few other upcoming features. We hope to have some demo videos for you in the future.
I'll be demonstrating the job hooks feature that's new in Nautobot 1.4. Job hooks allow you to automatically trigger a job when an object is changed in Nautobot. They're accessed from the jobs menu. So I can create a job hook, and similar to webhooks, I can assign them to specific content types. So I'm going to choose device, and then I choose the job that I want to run when this change occurs. So I'll select this job here and do update. So now anytime a device is updated, this job will run. We introduced a new type of job specifically to support job hooks. They're identical to regular jobs, except they use the job hook receiver subclass. They subclass the job hook receiver class instead of the typical job class. And they also have a static set of input arguments instead of being able to set your own variables. So this one will have the object change for the change event, the action, which will be a string of either create, update, or delete, and then an instance of the object that changed. To demonstrate, we can take our job hook that we created on device types. We can go in and make a change to a device. So I'll change the serial for this device. And then we can see that it triggered this job to run. And this job is just a basic demonstration. So we can see that the serial was changed from 123 to 123456, and it reverted it back to 123. So I can go back and look at that device. And we can see it's 123. And if we look at the change log, we can see that was changed by a job hook with this name and what the changes were. So we go to the previous change, and this is where I tried to make the change from the web device edit form. And this is all of that logic is in the job itself. So that was just the example job, the example job hook receiver. So what we're doing here is we're saying if serial is in the diff of added config, then we can take our changed object and set our serial to the old serial, which we pulled from the old portion of the diff. And all of this, you can do anything you want with these jobs. So it's just like any other job.
I'm going to demonstrate the new nested dynamic groups feature, which allows you to have dynamic groups of dynamic groups. And this is a feature first introduced, or dynamic groups are first introduced in Nautobot 1.3. And we've extended them a little bit, but just for starters, a dynamic group allows you to have a filter based on some criteria. In this case, you see here we have the filter as site equals AMS01. I'll go ahead and edit it just so you see that we have there right there in the filter fields, site AMS01. We have a child groups tab I'll come back to. And then we have a way to also visualize the filter in a more intuitive way here, and that'll get a little more advanced in a moment. So going back to the list view, I'm going to demonstrate this parent group, which is shown here. And if we scroll down here a little bit, we see that this group has 3 children, direct children, it's the descendants, first, second, and third child. And then we see here that third child has a nested child that is affecting the filtering of this group. So what we see here is the filter logic is more advanced. This is interpreted from the filter set that's generated by the aggregate of all of the child groups. And when you add a child group, you're able to specify an operator on which is the rule which applies how that filter from that child group affects the filtering from the parent group. And so if we look at this in edit view, we see here what we've done is added first child with and, which means it takes the base filter of the parent, which is all devices in this case, and then filters it down to only devices matching the first child, which is the and operator. The second child would then also include any devices matching the second child, which is the or operator, and then the third child will exclude any results that come from the third child. So if we look at that, this is interpreted in this way parenthetically of site equals AMS01 or site equals ANG01 and not status slug equals active or status equals active. And that you see that represented here where we have the filter for the first child, second child, and then the third child doesn't actually have its own filter, but it is inheriting or representing the filter from its child. You see these weights here. And so in the edit view, instead, what we've got is a drag and drop so that the weights aren't necessarily exposed. You could just reorder these. And the ordering is important because of the way that the rules are processed. So they're effectively processed from top down, say from the parent to all the way to all the descendants, or from left to right, depending on how you want to think about it. So the parent's filter is always considered first, and then they reduce down or include objects from there. So for example, we could reorder these. It might not necessarily result in a desirable group, but the idea being that the ability is there. And then by saving this actually resulted in a useless group that has 0 members, which isn't necessarily useful, like I said. If we return it to the way it was, oops, go scroll here, put first back in first place, third child back here. Honoring the rules that we thought about here, where it's like we want to include or intersect, reduce down from the first child, also include, but with an or the second child, and then exclude the third child's results. This gives us 2 devices. It's not quite represented here yet, but what's happening here is there are 11 members of this first group matching site equals AMS01. So there's 390 total devices in the database. You see that represented here down at third child. I'll come back to that in a sec. But what's happening is 389 devices filtered down to 11, and then ORed with 17, which results in 18, and then not of status equals active. So that means there's 2 objects in this database that don't have status equals active, but also match one or both of these 2 sites. And if we look at that, we see that we have 2 devices, one in AMS01, one in ANG01, but both the status of planned. So for more information on dynamic groups, please see the demo rig or check the documentation on dynamic groups.
Hi, so I'm going to be demonstrating a feature that's coming in Nautobot 1.4, which is the ability to view objects that are associated via relationships in the REST API. In short, what this is doing is letting you get access to more information about an object more easily via the REST API. So what I'm showing you here to begin with is the standard response you might get from the REST API when you're viewing a single circuit. I can see there's a number of fields here. You have the visibility into the custom fields that are defined in this model as well, but you don't have information about things that are associated via custom relationships. What we have added is the ability to opt in to including the relationship data on the object. via specifying it as a query parameter, include equals relationships. What you'll see now is a wealth of additional information that explains the relationships that are defined for this model, in this case for a site. Some information about each of these ones, what its name is, what type of relationship it is, that sort of thing. And then the objects that are related via that relationship to this specific instance. So this specific site has a site to VRF relationship to VRF red. We also have a site to VRS. It's a one-to-many relationship where we have a relationship to one VRF green. Prior to this feature, this would actually be a separate API lookup you would need to do to get the relationship associations based on the model. By putting it all here in one place, you can immediately see this information, see what objects are related. And furthermore, you have the ability through the REST API to make updates directly to the associations on the object via a post or patch request. This is in the documentation. Give me an example here of similar set of relationships here. As part of your request, you might specify something like this: specify relationships, the name of the slug of the relationship that you're interested in, which side of the relationship, and then the list of objects. This you would be overriding that relationship to VRF red with a relationship to VRF blue. And in the case, obviously, there can be quite a few relationships to deal with, much like custom fields. When you're doing these sort of point updates via the REST API, you can simply omit the relationships that you are not interested in changing in that request. Thus, this second example here, we're updating only the site to VRF relation and leaving the VRFs to sites relationship unmodified. That's essentially the gist of this feature. It's an opt-in feature, so by default, you will not see it on the REST API, but you can simply include that when desired by specifying this include relationships parameter. And this gives you all the information about every relationship on that object. Thank you.
Hey guys, my name is Han Lin, and I'm going to demonstrate a new feature that we added in this minor release, which is filtering based on relationship. So as you can see on my screen, we have a relationship which is device to VLAN, and it's a many-to-many type relationship. The source object is DCIM device, and the destination object is IPAM VLAN. So if we go to the device page, as we can see, there's an extra filter form field are added automatically for this relationship. And since it's a many-to-many relationship, you can enter multiple entries into this field. Let's add some entries into this field and see if it filters. And if we click on apply, as we can see, there are 4 devices that corresponds to 4 of these VLANs that showed up into this device list view. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Hey everyone, I'm here to demonstrate a new feature coming in Nautobot 1.4, being able to rerun a previous job with the same variables that were used to call it, simplifying data entry and running continuous jobs. In the job results view now, on any job that has its variables saved, so you see I have some past jobs here from a previous installation that don't have their variables saved, so you'll see that the rerun is grayed out. But you can see actually this job here is stashed and saved. To prove to you that it's not some movie magic here, I'm going to go into the jobs. I'm going to find this job here that actually takes a set of input. I'm going to run it. So it takes a simple input of the interval to sleep for. So you see the default value here is 4. I'm going to bump it up to 10. I'll run that job right now. You'll see it run through. And once that completes, you'll see it's slept for 10 seconds. And then obviously I have a rerun button right here on this exact job output itself that I could click on. So if I click this, you'll see 10 is automatically populated. Or I can also go back into the job results view and I can click the same button as well, and it will populate there. As well, if I go to just execute this job directly as though I had not referenced a previous job result, it still keeps the same default value. And from my previous job result, I had used 2 for the interval, and that's kept as well. It references the variables via argument. So anything that uses anything like a custom model or anything else, it will pull that from the database. Stores those variables as necessary. But otherwise, you can pretty much load any variable that's stored in the database. And that's it. 2 other really cool features coming in 1.4, and you'll be able to check out in the upcoming beta are, you'll now be able to bulk edit relationship associations from the model's bulk edit view. And we're also releasing a very helpful new feature, being able to attach notes onto objects. Nearly all models will support this feature, so you can stash useful, less structured, more human-centric information on things like circuits, devices, IP addresses, and more. Thank you all for watching this month's community meeting. You can follow on in our Slack channel for additional conversations. Happy automating!